call this the courtyard of the Sphinx.
If you look up at the face now, it looks like there's a smile. Wouldn't it be nice to know the secret of the ages? To know the answer to all the things that you've read about? Well, you can find it.
The Great Sphinx of Giza is a giant 4,500-year-old limestone statue situated near the Great Pyramid in Giza, Egypt. Measuring 240 feet long and 66 feet high, the Great Sphinx is one of the world's largest monuments. It is also one of the most recognizable relics of the ancient Egyptians, though the origins and the history of the colossal structure are still debated. What is the purpose of the Sphinx? When was the Sphinx built? And who built it?
Before we begin, make sure to smash the like button, subscribe to our channel, and click the notification bell for more amazing videos.
The Great Sphinx of Giza is one of the oldest, largest, and best of all, most mysterious monuments ever created by man. Between its expansive mythology, nebulous origins, and alleged connections to worlds beyond our own, the Sphinx is a proverbial treasure trove of esoteric history and information. Here are a few things you might not have known about the towering desert dweller. The Sphinx, a mythological creature that roamed Thebes. Technically, the Great Sphinx of Giza is not a sphinx.
What are you?
The Sphinx, the guardian of truth and knowledge.
Sphinx is a mythological creature that has a lion's body and a woman's head. The creature has significance in both Egyptian and Greek mythology. We can trace the word sphinx to the Greek verb sphingen, that translates to squeeze or to bind. There is no real connection between the meaning of the name and the creature itself. In Greek culture, a sphinx was a woman, daughter of Orthus. She had wings and a serpentine tail. The Sphinx would roam outside the city of Thebes, asking riddles to all the travelers. If they answered correctly, they were allowed to pass. According to mythology, the Sphinx only asked 2 riddles to the travelers. Riddle 1. Which is the creature that has 1 voice, but has 4 feet in the morning, 2 feet in the afternoon, and 3 feet at night? Riddle 2. There are 2 sisters. One gives birth to the other, who in turn gives birth to the first. Who are they? According to the myth, the creature ate the ones who could not answer these riddles correctly. But since we only know of a sphinx that is made from stone, there's nothing to worry about today. The answer to the first riddle is a human. You might have guessed the first one correctly, but the second one might have been a bit hard. The answer to the second riddle is the cycle of day and night. Only Oedipus, the mythical Greek king, was able to answer her riddles correctly, after which the Sphinx took her own life. Since the Greek mythology has a profound effect on the Egyptian culture, it's not hard to see how the Egyptians included the Sphinx in their culture. In its early days, the sculpture went by a few different names. The ancient Egyptians didn't identify this amazing sculpture as the Great Sphinx. It was referred to as a statue of the very great Khepri. It was also known as Horum Akhet, which means Horus of the Horizon. Medieval Egyptians gave it names such as Balib or Bala. Nobody is sure who built the Sphinx. The Great Sphinx of Giza is such a marvelous piece of work that it's surprising nobody bothered to take credit for it. Even now, without definitive evidence of the statue's age, modern archaeologists are split over which ancient Egyptian pharaoh created the landmark. A popular theory is that the Sphinx emerged during the rule of Khafre, whose reign during the 4th dynasty of the Old Kingdom would give the statue a birth date in the neighborhood of 2500 BCE. The pharaoh is credited with the aptly named Pyramid of Khafre, the second largest constituent of the Giza necropolis and of the adjacent valley of the mortuary temples. This collection's proximity to the Sphinx would tend to support the belief that Khafre was likewise responsible for its development, as do the similarities between the Sphinx's face and monuments of the pharaoh's likeness. However, without documentation of the age of the Sphinx, some scholars have forwarded the notion that the statue predated the works of Khafre. Some attribute the construction to Khafre's father, Khufu, the pharaoh who oversaw the creation of the Great Pyramid of Giza, and to Khafre's half-brother, Djedefre. Others date the Sphinx back much further. Ostensible water damage to the face and head has prompted the theory that the Great Sphinx lived through an era which extensive rainfall rocked the region, which could peg the statue's origins as early as 6000 BCE. The sculpture has spent quite a bit of time buried under sand. The Great Sphinx has fallen victim to the shifting sands of the Egyptian desert several times during its long life. The first known restoration of the early completely buried Sphinx occurred just prior to the 14th century BCE, thanks to Thutmose IV, who would soon ascend to the throne as Egypt's pharaoh. The 3 millennia that followed again buried the monument. By the 19th century, the statue's front arms lived deep beneath the walking surface of Giza. It wasn't until the 1920s that the statue would once again be fully excavated. What happened to the Sphinx's nose? There are a lot of legends related to the missing nose of the Sphinx. All of us must have heard of a cannonball fired by Napoleon's soldiers that hit the nose of the Sphinx and caused it to break off. Al-Makrizi, the Egyptian Arab historian, wrote that the nose of the Sphinx was actually destroyed by Sufi Muslim Muhammad Salim al-Dar in the 15th century. He was later executed for vandalism. The statue is the oldest monument, but not the oldest Sphinx. Nebulous though it may be, the Great Sphinx of Giza is accepted as the oldest monumental structure in human history. However, it could well fall shy of the longevity superlative when compared to other sphinxes. Even if you date the statue to Khafre's reign, sphinxes depicting his half-brother Djedefre and his sister Hetepheres II are suspected to predate the Great Sphinx. The Sphinx is the focus of a few astronomical theories. The enigma of the Great Sphinx of Giza has made it a key part of a number of theories about the ancient Egyptians' supernatural comprehension of extraterrestrial matters. Some scholars, such as Lenner, have discussed the Sphinx's involvement alongside the Pyramids of Giza necropolis in a massive power-harnessing machine meant to digest energy from the sun. Propagated chiefly by British writer Graham Hancock, notes an alignment of the Sphinx, the pyramids, and the Nile rivers with the stars of the constellation Leo and Orion in the Milky Way galaxy. Each theory has encountered its share of skepticism. But with a statue as mysterious as the Great Sphinx, the speculation isn't likely to stop anytime soon.